Hello, everyone. Hello, Curl friends. This is Annalise Harris, founder of Curls on the Block, here with you today in beautiful Orlando, Florida, ready for a curly weekend with the Miss Curly pageant. Queens here celebrating all things curly. Today, however, we are excited to share this platform and be able to highlight some of our curl friends who we have been able to meet in person now. COVID has brought many people together virtually, and now with loosened restrictions and various measures taken on vaccinations and just health considerations, we're able to meet in person. And I'm excited to actually share a wonderful video from our special guest who will be joining the stage in a moment. I'm really excited about this video. It definitely encapsulates the struggle of the curl friends and overall. And without further ado, My Hair, My Crown, My Freedom by Dr. Bernice B. Rumala.
Journeys through different global lands and local spaces unfold the beauty and uniqueness of my crown. Cotton fluffiness growing in every direction. Textured hair expressing itself in varying forms of my identity. Twists, knots, wigs, braids, afros, and silky threaded locks, tenderly cultivated by the native sun. The DNA of my locks blossoming with generations of history, culture, and experience. Absorbing things seen, told, heard, smelled, and touched in the past, leading to the present for a brighter tomorrow. A will of its own, resiliently breaking through barriers to express freedom. My hair is my crown and my freedom.
Wow, very powerful, very relevant, and so timely for a curly weekend here in Orlando, Florida. I am going to bring up Dr. Bernice B. Rumala now, and we're going to chat and talk about things that have gone on in the past year and a half and what's going on now and how folks can support her efforts and her institute that she'll be able to share about. Without further ado, we have Dr. Bernice B. Rumala. Hello, hello. I am not sure if everyone can hear you. Do you mind just making sure, let's see, your mic settings, okay. I'll make sure I see your, everything here. Let's see. Yeah, sure. Oh, I say something. You wanna introduce yourself again? Then maybe I could hear. Mm, no, I can't. Let's see. Let me try and bring you up again. Hold on. All right. Tech issues happen, right? We're still technically in Mercury in retrograde, so we're just gonna roll with everything today. All right, and let's see. Let's try it again. Without further ado, Dr. Bernice, be right. Let's see. Hmm. I cannot. This is unfortunate. Hmm. Let's see. I cannot. And I will give us a little bit more time to figure this piece out. And I will take you off so we can do that behind the scenes and just figure it out. While we figure this out, I would like to make sure everyone knows a little bit about the work Dr. Rumala has been doing with Curls on the Block, and we met through the work with the Crown campaign, and it has been definitely a journey. We had Teen Miss Curly 2021. I forget which year we're in now. She competed last year and did an amazing job holding it down all the way in North Carolina. And we were able to meet in person this July. We met and we were connected because of the Crown campaign. She has family that is a partner with Dr. Rumala, and the Crown campaign work can be found here. I will pull it up. And some of the activities that was done in collaboration with the Crown campaign and our Curly Queen included highlighting the work legislators were doing in North Carolina. The Teen Miss Curly 2021 actually was able to be featured in New York Times. So her family was featured on how they were making it through the pandemic, and she proudly wore her sash and crown and described just what it was like as a teen experiencing COVID, as well as her, passions, which did, of course, include being curly. So, I want to bring up the Crown campaign now, and just highlight the work they were able to do. If you weren't familiar with the Crown Act, it is a piece of legislation that has gone through at least 11 states now. There have been a number of cities as well as school districts and even counties throughout the United States that have recognized the need for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. And the Crown campaign has been really a grassroots effort galvanizing support from legislators for sure, and in addition to educators and experts in the field of academia, and highlighting the work done in the different cities by holding town halls, having Zoom meetings where folks could share their stories of how they've been negatively impacted by discriminatory policies that have led to the loss of jobs or opportunities. So essentially in Colorado, this bill was able to be passed actually last year in 2020 in March. It was like one of the last big in-person events before the state went into shutdown. There was the signing of the Crown Act, and it was actually pushed through a lens of economy and the impact that could have and has had on folks, because it limited hair discrimination has limited folks' access to employment, and also positive experiences at the job and at the workplace, which does unfortunately lead to burnout, isolation, feelings of low self-esteem, and ultimately leaving, right? Being either fired if you do not change your hair, or being forced to find a place, a work setting that is going to accept you in your fullness. Or assimilating and ultimately adhering to whatever restrictions were in place for that job, and as well as school. Here we have a little bit more about the Crown collaboration and campaign. As you see, Dr. Bernice Rumala is the co-founder with Shemeka Ebony, and a number of other folks who have definitely upheld the work of supporting case studies being shared. We have, of course, what we saw, the poem My Crown, My Hair, My Freedom, efforts to encourage folks to share the information, and 5 steps to help, which is writing into your legislators. And currently, the status of the Crown Act nationally is actually, it was presented on the floor, on the House floor, but not necessarily being pushed yet for a national policy. We have seen newsletters being developed, and information sharing has increased. We have seen even Dove take part in supporting the initiative globally as well as nationally, being able to connect with Essence and build up the conversation from a different perspective, where we have seen major work as well being pushed with famous folks, right? I'm famous in my own right in my head. But however, not too many people know me. However, we're seeing actors and actresses, we're seeing directors, and we're seeing authors really use their platform and voice to speak out against hair discrimination. I think Gabrielle Union has spoken out, and in particular, particularly faced some discriminatory actions when she was working for, I believe it was So You Think You Can Dance, or one of those shows. Don't quote me. However, she felt a lot of pressure to change her hair, and there was a lot of commentary around her hair. So you're going to keep scrolling here on the website. Feel free to check out crowncampaign.com to learn a little bit more about the work done and some of the community leaders, as well as being able to address issues in your community if you are experiencing it. I did have some folks locally in Colorado actually mention how they were looking at the school policies of their child's high school, and it's a charter school, that the policy unfortunately still said no head wraps. And it said, it just was really shocking, unfortunately, to still see it in Colorado, which had passed the Crown Act, right? But it just goes to show that we are still needing ambassadors, and we're still needing folks speaking out, and for parents and everyone to look at the policies that, at your workplace, at your child's school, and bring up the conversation about, hey, this legislation has passed, and actually I find this policy actually it's a bias and anti-hair. There's some discriminatory language in here. And so really, we don't always have to necessarily boycott and go to an extreme to bring it to light. However, we should bring it to administration initially and ask them to start the conversation. How are you going to be in compliance to this law, right? And so we need you all to be ambassadors for sure. And be able to uphold, right? What has been determined as fair, which is the Crown Act. We'll bring up, because I'm rambling, but I can definitely talk about the Crown Act some more. I'm going to bring up Dr. Rumala again and see if this time is a little better. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
So what we have to have you do is just, there we go. You figured it out. Like I said, Mercury in retrograde, we were pushing past that and we're being curly today and just going through it, right? Removing every kink of the day, but not in our hair, right? Do you want to try again and greet everyone? So we're going to ask her to join us again in a moment. So I feel like this is like adding the intensity, right? We're ready to hear what she has to say. What I will do is move forward with actually the video that I know she wanted to share about her work. Even beyond the Crown Act. And I'm just going to read a little bit about, read her credentials. Okay, excuse me. I hope I do it justice. Okay. Dr. Bernice B. Rumala, Columbia University, Ph.D., Ed.M, MA, and Master in Philosophy. Fulbright Fellow, Harvard Research Fellow, and former United Nations representative for the Middle East. I mean, I had to take a couple breaths while I was reading that. So, very impressive resume, and just really excited to know a little bit more about her work, where she has a wonderful institute. So, we'll try one more time and bring you up. Do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, curly friends. Can you hear me?
Amen. We can hear you now.
Yes, our voice matters.
Felt like Verizon, but you know what? It's all
Well, thank
good.
you so much for that wonderful intro. I'm very excited to be here. Also, greetings from Orlando. Thank you so much for the invite. And I am so pleased with all of the efforts that you have initiated. I have heard wonderful things, and that's why Crown Campaign and People with Lived Experience Institute is so happy to partner with Curls on the Block for the being a mover and shaker and just really changing the landscape in Colorado and beyond. We're so excited to partner with you. So thank you for being a visionary, Annalise.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And just because of time, and we want to make sure to get the information you want to share, what could you tell us about your current work? I mean, I blabbed a little bit about the Crown Campaign, and I definitely want to use the platform to allow you to be highlighted for the work you're doing now. So, can you tell us about PLE, the People with Lived Experiences Institute?
Absolutely. So the People with Lived Experience Institute was founded as a platform to engage the voices of people with lived experience. People with lived experience are all of us who have gone through severe inequities, daily inequities, including racism, gender inequities, and many inequities in our daily lives. And it was founded to serve as a platform to increase the voices of the marginalized so that we can all serve as that voice for change. The People with Lived Experience Institute is really changing the landscape so that we're no longer invisible, but we're really serving as that voice and that platform to make sure that we're at the platform. As we know, traditionally, I come from very humble beginnings. My no, I think
Well, actually, we have to bring her right back on. I think I messed up trying to help. So we're going to have her come right back and talk about the PLE Institute. But I'm going to actually share her video about Dr. Romo's video about the people with lived experiences. So we can bring her back on. Oh, there she is. Oh, well, we don't even need to wait. There you go. Trying it again.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Thank you all for your patience as we navigate some of these tech challenges, which is to be expected in this pandemic. So I appreciate that. And as I said before, we're so pleased to partner with Curls on the Block on this auspicious occasion. Curls on the Block has been taking the lead in really changing systems. And to transition into what I was saying about the People with Lived Experience Institute, that's why we're proud to partner with Curls on the Block, because we really stand on the platform of engaging people with lived experiences of inequities. People with lived experiences are people like you and I who have gone through daily experiences of inequities, including racism, gender discrimination, oppression, being marginalized. And so the People with Lived Experience Institute was founded to serve as a platform to fully engage the voices of those who are marginalized, who are going through everyday experiences of inequities, including racism. Some of the things that we've been able to launch includes the Journal with People with Lived Experience Institute. And part of this effort is we saw that people with lived experience were not really engaged in the conversations as far as partnerships with academia, for example, with universities. And so there needed to be a way for people with lived experience to be engaged fully as far as their voices in the publication and literature. So this journal was just launched this year. We have a Library of Congress issue number, and we're very excited about this. Additionally, we have listening sessions to engage the voices of people with lived experiences going through everyday inequities. And again, this boils down to everyone's voice matters. And so during the pandemic, a number of things that we've done for the People with Lived Experience Institute includes really ensuring that your voices are heard. And that's why we're pleased to partner with Curls on the Block on a number of initiatives. And Crown Campaign is also a partner. As Annalise has said earlier, I'm a co-founder for the Crown Campaign. And a number of wonderful initiatives have been done across the nation. She's highlighted what's been done in North Carolina. I also want to highlight what's been done by our wonderful Crown Campaign ambassador out of Alabama. Her name is LaShawn Hill, and she is the owner of Natural Elements Hair Salon. She joined our initiative last summer in June 2020, and she reached out and said, "What can I do?" And it was amazing because within the span of just 2 weeks, she had already instituted a resolution, the first in Birmingham, Alabama, for Crown Day. And it was amazing because when she initially joined, she had at first did not see herself as a leader. And we informed her that you're absolutely a leader in this community. And she has done amazing work, leading work, not only in the state of Alabama, but also speaking to some national audiences on behalf of Crown Campaign. And this just shows that your voice matters. Everyone can serve as a catalyst for change as part of our initiatives. There's no voice that's too small or too big to serve in this. And a lot of this is informed from my background because I grew up as a daughter of a mother who cleaned buildings for a living. And she often told me that she felt invisible
growing up. And so I had to accompany her to work, hide underneath the tables because she couldn't afford childcare. And she basically told me, I want you to achieve as much as possible in order for you not to be discriminated against. And many years later, many degrees later, I told her I'm still discriminated against. Um, and that's why this initiative is so important as far as addressing inequities such as racism and gender discrimination and hair discrimination, because it's absolutely real. It's part of our everyday experiences. No matter how credentialed I am, I still experience the discrimination and racism that my mother thought that I would not experienced by earning degrees. And that's why we all have to engage in a very real way to address these systemic inequities. And that's exactly what the Crown Act is seeking to do. That's exactly what Crown Campaign is seeking to do. That's exactly what Curls on the Block is seeking to do in terms of really showing the beauty of your curls, also enhancing self-esteem, and also showing the power of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, the arts, mathematics. It's super critical. And so I want all of you who are listening to continue to feel empowered in your curls. The People with Lived Experience Institute, as a partner with Curls on the Block, we're very excited to partner and support. And I'm going to hand this over back to Annalise.
And I'm back. A little sauce for the hair too. And thank you so much for explaining and sharing your personal connection to this work. And folks, I think sometimes are missing the links. And I think you're sharing your story, how, your own mother from very humble beginnings had a vision and dream for you, was willing to sacrifice and do what she could, and had a vision that you would be successful. And here you are with all of these amazing credentials and work done for the community, for our nation, as an ambassador yourself, and still coming back home to experience just the discrimination that it just seems doesn't matter how successful you get or your education. Folks just have an idea of when they see you, they're making judgment calls or feeling as though they're more important than you are. So I hope that through the work that you've been able to do, you are finding some healing. And with our curl friends and our curly queendom growing, you're part of that. And you can find, our tribe is supportive of your work. I want to be able to highlight your video. And so I will have that up in a moment. And I just love the creativity. I love the commitment, and I'm glad that we could chat briefly about your accomplishments. I apologize for such all the tech issues, but without further ado, I want to bring up the people with lived experience and the inequities of the resilience model.
Thank you. And prior to you bringing that up, I wanted to just make a brief comment about the video that you shared earlier, which was My Hair, My Crown, My Freedom. And I appreciate you sharing that with the audience, because part of the impetus for me directing that short animation film is really to show the beauty of our crown. I've been to more than 30 countries globally, and I have to say I wore my hair proudly in those countries, but discrimination still exists. So I feel that the more of us that are really proudly wearing our crowns, the more it can be appreciated as really our crowning. It's our crown and glory. And so I think that in the process of making that film, I have to explain some background knowledge, which wasn't part of the documentary, but the process of making it was a lesson learned in itself, in terms of the visual creation and explaining, for example, the cornrow styles to the visual animator, and also explaining how big the fro needed to be, and explaining what Bantu knots look like. So things like that is all part of the process as far as education and advocacy. There are some of our partners who are not familiar with curly hair and the greatness and the different styles, and how this is so important in terms of our cultural identity. And so it was a wonderful learning experience and educational experience in terms of working with a team to formulate the animation film and explain why these different cultural markers are important. So I just wanted to speak about that part of the filmmaking process briefly.
You know what? That's actually a really good way to start talking about art and everything else. So you know what? This weekend here at the Wyndham Orlando Resort in Florida, we're going to take some time and map out where we want to go for 2022. Oh my goodness, you can't even say that without like a tongue tie. However, we're going to collaborate and even more and discuss like where we're at now and the issues you're bringing up. We need to speak to those because this will encourage that young artist who is like, oh, I'm making curly hair folks, and everybody is, or I'm actually a real sucker for like our visuals and work art that reflects us. So we need more. I definitely will buy it, obviously. And I actually just got my own planner, so I would for next year. So we're really talking about this work and where we can go, and just the need for representation. Because when we have more representation, we have also the obligation for everyone to have to understand different folks that you have to draw and create. And yes, you got to figure out how to make these curls pop in a cartoon. I don't need just the blob. Okay. I have like highlights, right? And then the beauty of braids, even in art, because I've actually seen, I feel like we've seen plates becoming even more beautifully depicted, and I think that's amazing because, it used to be even me just like some pigtails at the bottom, and it was like that was the braid. But we're like, our braids start at our crown. So just making sure our young girls and artists even are understanding the importance of, yes, we need you to invest in us and so thank you for that, and that brings some really good ideas to my brain for how we can discuss during the weekend where we're going to go.
Sure. And that ties into the tech part too, because for graphic designers, what I've seen is that sometimes they're limited to the apps and what's available in terms of the design. So in working with this animation artist, I actually had to hand sketch what certain things look like. And so then the animation artist had to come up de novo with different ways to fully and realistically depict what I was stating. For example, the Bantu knots, instead of putting the blob that you so wonderfully referenced, which is what it looked like originally. I said, no, this is not acceptable. It does not represent the cultural identity that I'm seeking. And so really, I think that there's immense opportunity to combine the sciences, technology, engineering, the arts all together, and for everyone to use their gifts in full so that we're fully represented in the space.
Absolutely. And that's Curls on the Block, All right. So I'm going to bring up your video and we will watch that next.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We gotta change the world. We gotta change the world. Yeah. People with lived experience institute, source of solution, unapologetic truth, radical leaders, because people matter. Yeah, because people matter. We have been through it, please. We know the challenges. We have the solutions. We address wars. We address power dynamics. We address equity. System transformation through explicit truth. Explicit truth is born. Explicit truth is uncomfortable. We are not here to make you comfortable. But we're here for change. Explicit truth is uncomfortable. We are not here to make you comfortable. But we're here for change. People with lived experience institute. Our community wants to live. Our community wants to thrive. People with lived experience. Leading with unapologetic truth. Radical leadership for change. We know the challenges. We have the solutions. We address voice. We address power dynamics. We address equity. Systems transformation through explicit truth. Explicit truth is bold. Explicit truth is uncomfortable. We are not here to make you comfortable. But we're here for change. Explicit truth is uncomfortable. We are not here to make you comfortable. But we're here for change. People with lived experience institute. People with lived experience institute. Yeah. Oh. We gotta change the world, change the world.
You know, you got to show the credits, you know. So I just let this roll because it's definitely so significant to see, you know, your name showing up. You got it copyrighted. All of the pieces that just show the work that you've put in and the commitment you have for the people with lived experiences. So I appreciate you, and I'm gonna stop sharing now. I don't know about anyone else, but I am inspired. I'm so grateful. And talk about people with lived experiences. We just went through one now. So definitely glad that, you know, I have such a, you know, understanding colleague and guests for this time that we're sharing. Thank you again. Throughout all of the hiccups, we have made it, and hopefully folks have learned. I did see in the comments people are very excited to learn about what you have shared, and I will put in, if you could say where people could find more information, and I'll put that in the chat. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing the film. You can get more information at pleinstitute.org. That's pleinstitute.org. And it has all of our updated initiatives there. And I'm looking forward to engaging with everyone to provide a little background on the specific film, as well as the song. And this is why the arts is critically important in terms of integration as far as being a change agent and systems. Oh, she just pulled it up. Thank you, Annalise. This is why the arts is critically important in terms of integration. I wrote that song, and it's called People with Lived Experience, Source of Solutions. It's our theme song. And the reason why it's critically important is to really highlight explicit truth as far as the voices. Sometimes what we find is in certain places, because of trying to be politically correct and trying to walk on eggshells, we're not really addressing the root causes of the inequities. And what we want to do with the People with Lived Experience Institute is really address the root causes by explicitly naming what the issues are and also providing solutions for everyone to get involved as the source of solutions of the inequities that they're experiencing. For example, as part of Crown Campaign, one thing I didn't share is that while I was a grad student, I was informed by a very well-meaning mentor that I didn't want my hair to distract from my excellent qualifications. And I was thinking, how could hair that grows naturally out of my scalp distract from my excellent qualifications? And this was a very well-meaning person who thought they would give me some friendly advice. But at the same time, it was marginalizing something that's part of my cultural identity. And that's why these things need to change as part of systems, because something that's your natural cultural characteristic should not be used as a tool for discrimination. But unfortunately, we're seeing this. Even in our work we're working with multiple systems. And what we found coming out of Texas, where a schoolboy under the age of 5 was discriminated against and isolated from his classmates, isolated from an education because he had a ponytail. And specifically, the school had in their system and in their rules and policy, no Afro puffs. So obviously, it's targeting a specific race ethnicity. The grandmother of the boy then started to protest, and she originally had no record, no record at all, and was then arrested. And so we see how this ties into the legal system as far as discrimination, where you have a boy who's going through post-traumatic stress disorder because he's isolated from his friends and thinking he did something wrong. He was put in detention. The grandmother who sought to protest for his rights is now arrested, going through stressors. She received threats from the community. She eventually, the school then changed the policy slightly, but changing it in a negative way, where they eliminated the program that the boy was participating in. And so we see how discrimination has huge impacts in terms of the justice system, in terms of the health system in this case, in terms of policies. And so that's why in this specific animation film, the second one that was shown, where we see multiple systems where our people are being hammered by those systems. But then you see those in the background who are saying, wow, you're so resilient. And the reason why that this is stated is it's not, being resilient in itself is not a bad thing, but when the root causes of what's causing one to be resilient is not addressed, then it becomes a vicious cycle. And that's why it's so important that we name and label the issues such as racism, gender discrimination, oppression, and other marginalization that's going on, so that the root causes can be addressed. It's not enough to award communities prizes to say, wow, you're so resilient. And that's why the film specifically, it was based on my lived experiences. And I put billboards that said #1 community for resilience. And it was done on purpose, intentionally, because that's what we see is happening in society. And that's where the arts is an important communicative tool to inform others of what's going on, seeing things through the lens of those who are going through lived experiences of inequities, and also to show that it's multiple systems that are involved. So just know that as you're listening, that your voice matters. Every gift that you have, if you're a singer, do it. Like I'm a singer, I'm an artist, I write. You use all of your gifts to address these issues. It doesn't need to be a one size fits all, because all of your talent that you're bringing to the table is useful. Science, if you're a scientist, technology, involved in technology, we need all of those gifts to address this issue.
Yeah, we really do. And it just, thank you so much for speaking to that. And I can even say that sometimes we're even fighting, and I say fighting, but we're up against the mentality that has been ingrained, even embedded in our own group, right? So a lot of times we're finding that one of the first layers to remove is kind of the most challenging, is our own folks nearest to us, where folks are saying, starting with our looks. Well, you probably look better this way, or this group looks better than this group, and you're just, we're creating division, which ultimately prevents us from addressing even the outer influence and impact, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone on the outside is going to have something to say, but if we don't have solace and community in our group, intra group, we're really seeing the impact is the delay, and an opportunity for the outside to be like, dismiss some of our own, our issues that we're bringing to light. And so we just,
Yes.
all the sides.
You have raised a critical point, and I have to say, in the conferences that we've spoken at for Crown Campaign, we've seen that has been an issue, especially the generational stigma that occurs within families. And so what we're encouraging is have those kitchen table conversations starting at home. Ending racism starts at home. And it starts with really appreciating our natural beauty, appreciating what we're coming in with. And so we've heard numerous stories from families where actually at one of the conferences, I think this was in 2019, a mother actually apologized to her daughter at the conference. She said, "I apologize for holding you back from expressing yourself." She was the mother who encouraged her daughter to straighten her hair so that she can be accepted. She was the one, and it was because of the generational experiences of what she had been through in terms of acceptance. So she did not want her daughter to face those similar discrimination patterns, but at the same time, she was stopping her daughter from expressing her full cultural identity. And so through the education provided at the conference, she did a public apology to her daughter. And I think that there's such healing in that, in terms of having authentic conversations with family members on what does one's cultural identity mean? What does hair mean? How can we really fully express ourselves so that we're accepted? And part of the acceptance is self-acceptance, and then a lot of it is making sure that internally within families that there's a full embracing of the cultural identity. So I encourage everyone to start those kitchen table conversations so that everyone is comfortable coming in their fullness and glory of their crown. No, whichever way you choose to express your crown.
Thank you so much. And do you have any other encouraging words that you may want to relay to folks who are watching and who will see this later?
Yes, I did want to share one more thing. I know that I didn't share this link with you in advance, but if you can pull it up on YouTube, the Deeper Than Hair song.
Yeah.
I wanted to pull that up because it pretty much ties everything from Crown Campaign to the People with Lived Experience Institute and the importance of why this work that we do is important and why all of your voices as you're listening matters. So it's called Deeper Than Hair. It's a song that I wrote to show the interconnectedness of why this issue that we're talking about is much deeper than hair and why your voices matter in addressing this.
Absolutely. I will find that in a moment. It actually was coming up as one of the next videos. I wonder if
Okay.
Yeah, I think here it is here. So what I'll do is just put the link in, and you know what, we can end with this playing. And I just want to say thank you again for those who are watching. And I'm super excited because I get to hang with some of the coolest curl friends ever, and we're about to go take over Orlando. So definitely, I also didn't get to highlight my shirt, but it's, black and smart. This is what we're about today, being black and smart, and just recognizing our amazing abilities, our thoughts, and being able to have a great conversation. Thanks again. And I will invite everyone to watch this last video. Dr. Rumala, you're so busy. I don't know how you get these things done and smiling and such a great demeanor. So, I appreciate you because, my eye will start twitching when things, I'm like, I'm doing all these things.
You're amazing. You're amazing, and we're so proud to partner with you. You're such a visionary. So thank you.
All right, well, I will take it away and deeper than hair.
It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. Human rights, employment, health, access, policy, no education, opportunity, well-being, social justice, community, voice, identity, culture, history, ending discrimination, ending discrimination. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. Human rights, employment, health, access, policy, no education, opportunity, well-being, social justice, community, voice, identity, culture, history, ending discrimination, ending discrimination. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper than hair. It's deeper. Human rights, employment, health, access, policy, no education, opportunity, well-being, social justice, community, voice, identity, culture, history, ending discrimination, ending discrimination.
We actually have a question coming from one of the viewers. So if you don't mind hanging on a bit, we should
Absolutely.
get this question answered. I am really excited for the rest of the weekend, just being able to consider all the things you shared with us and identifying, for 2022. I mean, we're still in 2021, so we can start now with our work. If you haven't, definitely pick up the baton. It is definitely available to share and pass on. And we need multiple batons running, right, at this race to ultimately, create an open and respectful world for natural hair, right? So I'm looking in the comments. Let's see. I don't see it yet, but I did get message, that there was a question about some work. I'm trying to, think long term. Where do you see the where do you see PLE going? Like, if folks want to support you, where do you want to be by the next year's Curly Weekend?
Wow, there are so many things that are happening right now in terms of the efforts. One of the things is specifically for the journal for people with lived experience, which was just launched. What makes this huge is that it's open access. And so it was meant to really fill a void. For those who might be familiar with academia, many of the journals are not open access. You have to pay in order to access the material. Um, Again, that comes at its own cost in terms of having myself as a founder having to seed my own personal money into the efforts. But it's because I fully believe in this effort. I really do. That those who are going through lived experiences of inequities need to have those experiences documented, as well as not only documented, but accessed by academia, because that's where the grants and the research that informs policy comes from. All of these policies that we're seeing nationally, they're informed by research, they're informed by focus groups, they're informed by the literature. And that's why one of the missing pieces that I identified had to do with really authentically engaging the people, voices of people with lived experiences of inequities in scholarly work. And so part of the prioritization is to ensure that those voices are captured in the literature. This is also changing the way that the peer review process is implemented. And I wanted to break it down for some of the audience who may not be familiar with the peer review process. In academia, before you can submit your research to any journal, any write-up to any journal, it goes through a process known as peer review, which is these are your peers who view whether your scholarly work is worthy of being published. So it's reviewed, and they decide whether it should be published, or whether it needs revisions, or if it should be rejected. Now, the inequities in that process in some cases is that what is the mental model? Those who are reviewing the literature, what are their mental models? Is it coming from, are they looking at your submission from a lens of equity? Are they looking at the submission from a lens of inequities? What if they can't relate to the experiences of what's been written about? Does that mean that it's automatically rejected? And that has actually been the case.
Yes.
And that's why.
No, yes. I have plenty of friends, even in education, especially where even just their topic has been pushed back. Not to mention the 100 pages worth of work and research done, but the title, the framing. If it's from a Black experience, I'm telling you, it has been rejected.
Yes.
If
Yes.
if it's unable to be used as a broad piece of work, it has been rejected. If it highlights, and I have multiple friends who have gone through the doctoral process and have expressed their the ultimate outcome for them was depression. It became very hard to battle with the fact that this process that they felt, connected to become a doctor and be recognized and share this work that is meaningful to them was rejected just by the title and the work. That what's interesting is the research didn't change when they changed the name and framing. Is interesting. So just the state. It's just very frustrating and unfortunate. Definitely. I definitely have a comment here. Like, how do we get your work in Illinois? So we got a specific state. Let's get you.
Well, let's connect. The person who sent that comment. This is a local, national, as well as global initiative. So we're wanting all hands on deck. So yes, let's connect. Another area that I had forgotten to highlight is we also have a fellows program for the People with Lived Experience Institute, for those who are interested in being People with Lived Experience fellows. We do have a doctoral student who has been a fellow since last year. The fellowship is open to anyone who's interested in sharing their lived experiences broadly as part of this effort. And that's why, even going back to the journal, this journal is open to all who want to share their lived experience in a scholarly way. You will receive guidance. I will help. Um, for example, the natural hair salon owner, LaShawn Hill, we're working with her on submitting an article. So because she's done amazing work. She's done amazing work. And in the traditional scholarly literature, there's such a hierarchy and elitism, unfortunately, where, for example, someone who has done amazing changes, such as herself, as a Crown campaign ambassador, implemented laws, would have traditionally not have published something in the scholarly literature. But we're changing things like that for the journal with people with lived experience, where if you're if you're a hair salon owner, a law enforcement officer, cleaning buildings like my mom, we want to hear from you. We want you to publish in our journal. This is critically important to engage the voices of those who have traditionally been marginalized. We are not embracing a model of only those in academia or only those who are doing scholarly work traditionally, because we've seen that in order to change systems, we need to engage those who are actually going through those inequities on a daily basis as a source of solutions. And unfortunately, what happens when going through academia, there's a watering down, there's a changing of the language, such as what Annalise had emphasized. And that watering down is not helpful. We have to explicitly name and label the issues and address it head on. Watering it down into some theoretical model that was developed over 50, 60, 100 years ago that doesn't apply to the experiences of what we're going through now does not work. And I can speak confidently on that, having gone through those same theoretical models. So,
Right.
so it doesn't.
That's not theoretical. That's a lived experience.
So we basically see your lived experience as your expertise. And so we encourage you to partner with us. And the person from Illinois, yes, please reach out. The address is leader@pleinstitute.org is the email, leader@pleinstitute.org. Looking forward to hearing from you and connecting with you.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, I think we've definitely dredged up a lot of interest, inquiry, and I look forward to seeing how you thrive and working, continue to do the work with you and support you. Thank you so much. And I know you sat in panels in Colorado for virtually for Colorado folks. So thank you again for your commitment and willingness to support in general. And without further ado, thank you so much. Oh, of course. There is a comment.
Oh.
Okay. It says, I've heard many conversations from groups that appear to address issues of inequality, but actually accomplish nothing. You talked about us needing to get to the root cause of these issues. Absolutely. We know it's just a conversation. We have to get beyond that. And I think the work that you're doing is definitely a step forward in that, and actually fusing academia with the average person, right? Because often it's not connected, right? The average person and academia, there's a whole academic language, and it's fine to recognize that. But the other piece is to recognize the disparity of understanding and investment and valuation of those experiences into academia. And then the follow-up question here is, can you help us weed the real conversation from the false? You know what? Look, it might need to start with some prayer, but do you have any initial thoughts before we close? How can we weed those real conversations from the false? Like, because the conversation is a start. We have to recognize that. However, some folks been talking since 1970s. So, I reclaim my time. So what would you say are do you have like a list of questions that maybe can, or statements that can push folks beyond just that first step, which is necessary but redundant often because they just keep talking. So
I am so glad that question came up. I've actually created a rubric for diversity, equity, and inclusion that's been published. And I
okay.
use that as a checklist for transparency and accountability when starting the conversations. For example, in any meeting that I find myself, I ask who's missing from the table.
Mm,
Oftentimes, I find in these meetings, they're involving those from the upper echelons of society and not necessarily involving the grassroots, those who are actually going through the inequities. And then what occurs much later is once there's a line budget item, then there is a afterthought of, oh, let's engage this population and give them a gift card, you know, which is
look,
not, it's not.
$5 for an hour of your time and your thoughts so we can say we that got your voice. I've worked for organizations that do that, and I have to constantly say this is not enough. But I understand it's a start, but the monetization piece is like, oh, pay them. So I'm going to share. Actually, I think I found it on your
Ah.
website. You know, I'll be fast with the resources when it comes to let's see. Here we go. Engage people with lived experience. Is this it? The relationship building assessment tool?
So that's one of the tools. There is another one. There is another one that's called it's a diversity, equity, and inclusion rubric. And I'm wondering if it's been posted under that link. No, it has not been posted yet. My apologies. It's available on another site.
Okay. But
On
these are great resources to
yes.
so look, start with there, engaging the community, right? A conceptual framework. You have done the research. You are sharing your studies and your voice and highlighting, you know, ways folks can create authentic conversation and then actual change, right? For the better.
And I'll share that the other link I'm referencing, that will be a wonderful tool in addition to what you shared on the screen.
Okay.
It's a really it's a marker for really keeping others accountable, organizations accountable to have those real authentic conversations versus the false conversations that tend to occur for a checkbox list, because we want to go farther beyond the checklist approach. Right now, we want to make sure that people and organizations are accountable from the very beginning in terms of engaging the real lived experiences, not trying to relabel the words because of political correctness or relabeling the initiative or engaging people much later and giving a $5 gift card. It's just not acceptable. So that list will help to bring up conversations in those meetings and let them know that here's a published resource that we can go through to see, is our organization following this, or are other people that you're having conversations with following this from a diversity, equity, and inclusive perspective.
And I want to say this, but I know it'll keep me talking. And you know, we're gonna do some planning for next few hours for Curls on the Block and the Miss Curly Queens. So I don't want to bite too much into that time. And we also, a little shout out, I have in Denver right now, we have the Camp Curly session going on where they're learning the 10 Curly Commandments. So we're doing the thing here. But I do want to say, with this attack on the critical race theory, we're seeing a lot of confusion, folks, but we're also seeing the racism just very blatant. We saw in what I believe New York City, there was this an effort to ban books, including I Love My Hair, and like books just about cultural experiences that are relevant for young kids. And there are some other titles as well that you're just questioning, why are these things, they're literally not even looking. It's just, if any words, there's some websites, I'm not going to give credence to them, however they exist, and they're stating hey, here's these key words to look for, and it's racism, anti-racist efforts, all these keywords that are literally diversity, equity, inclusion. But I do not want to continue that piece, but just put people on, just letting them know that actually what's going to start happening is what has already begun in some collegiate spaces. oh, well, diversity. Well, now, oh, well, we need. I can't even believe what I saw. There's an effort in, I believe, Colorado. Oh, hate to say it, but requiring, or an effort for conservative thought to
Mm,
be highlighted. I also saw the effort that there needs to be a balanced conversation about the Holocaust. And
mm,
I'm like, well, what quote comes to mind is where, if this group was being attacked and you didn't help, who's going to help you when
mm,
your group is? You know what I'm saying? So it starts always typically with the Black community, right? And Black as across the diaspora. Any issues relevant, in particular United States, relevant for the Black community, if unaddressed, do end up seeping into every other community. Even the housing crisis started with Black community, and
mhm,
it became pervasive throughout every community, as we saw, right? Multiple housing crisis have occurred. So anyway, now we're seeing this attack continue, and I don't wish it on anyone. To I mean, I'm just in shock. I thought I couldn't even believe we need a balanced perspective.
mm,
No, the balanced perspective is the truth needs to be said, but I
mhm,
and I'm not even going to get into it. But folks that actually don't even know those things about even, and this is a tangent a bit, but the reality of the truth is Adolf Hitler did also actually get a Nobel Prize for his research, but it was done
mm,
in a cruel way. And it's just interesting though, if we look at the truths actually, and that to me is critical race theory for sure, bringing the voice of the folks who have typically been absent from the conversation. And that goes back to your very first statement, in response to the question of how do we move from conversation, and is who's missing. and
mhm,
and this is also the impetus, if you are there to speak, because it can't be left to the most vocal person, right? If you're at the table, you do need to speak and be considerate of the community, unfortunately, that you represent as a whole, is what happens
mm.
when you're there. So if you're at the table, you need to be ready to eat and cut up some meat, right? or leaves, if that's what you're doing, no meat. So I
And I'll also add, even if you're not at the table, set your own table. And that's what I appreciate what you have done, Annalise. You set your own table through Curls on the Block. With People with Lived Experience Institute, we had to set our own table
Yep,
because the most marginalized were not engaged in the scholarly discourse. So if you do find yourself at the table, yes, use your voice. If there's no table, set your own table, your own seat, your own meal, your own menu, to make sure that these issues are addressed, and then start partnering and engaging with allies.
absolutely. And man, I think this is a great way to actually end, because we keep going and talking, and I can't wait to chat with you some more in person and see these ideas and the work continue throughout the rest of this year and throughout next year and beyond. So thank you again so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And as I always say, stay curly. Take care, everyone.